There's a difference you're not used to seeing at this time of year in games played. You've played 63, Notre Dame has played 52. What do you see are the bigger advantages in terms of having 11 more games under your belt going into this matchup?
Yeah, I think you get to a certain point and you can say that your team is experienced or they had chances to prove themselves or learn from things. So, again, I don't know what that watermark is, but you get into a competitive league like ours or theirs, you probably can check a box that you've got a full season of body of work that can show this is how good of a team we are, and then also these are the things we do well and things that maybe we learned from. But I do think as you play more games, as we'll find out on Friday, both teams, there's going to be some things that pop up inevitably in this game of baseball. The beauty of it is you see things for the first time all the time. But then also, just no one team, no one pitcher, no one, game is the same as others. So again, I think each time you can get out there and accumulate experience, especially if those games are, we both had a good run in the conference tournaments and things like that, then there's a little added bonus for sure.
So Vince and then Rick and then Ryan after that.
Tony, Notre Dame obviously has some really good numbers with their pitching staff. What are some of the specific things you guys have seen or any specific players that stand out about their pitching staff?
Yeah, I mean, it's really deep. Obviously, we are assured 2 games, but we'll just worry about Friday for now with Temple and, likes to spin it, but also fastball and light either. So it's kind of your typical deal, again, either in our conference or those that you're going to see on a Friday night. But I'd say the depth. And we kind of talk about depth around here a lot of times because you all bring it up, and we feel confident in a variety of guys off the bench, whether it be on the offensive, defensive, or pitching side of things. But I think in particular, pitching is an up and down thing for them. They'll rely on guys in a bunch of different settings or roles, it seems like. I'm not a foremaster of what their team does and doesn't do, but you can look at the save numbers and see that they clearly trust a lot of guys, and guys are capable of doing different things for them. So that word depth is probably true for both teams, and I think in particular they certainly have it on that staff you're asking about.
Hey, Tony. Vince took my question, but
Yeah.
but I've got another one for you. Big stage, but having that stage at home can't be understated, can it?
No, it can't, just because you work all year long and you want that, and you sit at home, and there's certain teams probably, one in this setting where you can make the argument that you want to host, and it's a competitive thing. So everybody's hunting it down for a reason. It can help you, and I don't know at this point in the year that sleeping in your own bed and things like that are really going to matter at a game of this magnitude, if you want to call it, or when competition's this high and both teams are talented. But the thing for us is just our fans. And I think it's awesome being in Hoover. It's awesome what went on in Chattanooga and Memphis. Anyone that documented that this year, twice in Smokies Park, was incredible. And trust me, we appreciate that, and I think it helps our guys' efforts. But there is a little bit different way that it goes down, I think, for our players. At least, I'm speaking for them, at least the way I feel and what I see out of them when it's our home crowd. I think it's a little bit more of a comfort zone, and it's something that helps our play. And, we don't have any control over what the other team thinks, but at the very least, it's a loud place to play in if you're the opposing team.
You guys know your starting pitching plan for Friday and Saturday?
Yeah, Blade will throw on Friday again, and then Dell will throw on Saturday. And then just like Notre Dame, I think both of us, again, see what reality is. You're assured 2 games, and then if Sunday rolls around, we'll worry about Sunday when it does. But for now, we would just like to attack Friday, and it's only fair to Doe. And, of course, they're doing the same thing to allow your guy that's throwing in that game, too, to prepare.
Mike?
Yeah. Tony, when it comes to getting in the portal and recruiting transfers, what is the best sales pitch right now that you guys feel like you have to those guys?
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, I'm not very sales pitchy. I don't know that I'd be good at it. I think one thing that sometimes people like, and it stems from Frank, is we're incredibly black and white. And we get our recruits or people we're courting around our players so they can kind of hear it straight from their mouth. And I think one thing they'll hear from our players is they enjoy, kind of like the coaches like working around each other. It's an environment where everyone enjoys being. And that's not why everyone leaves a current situation because they weren't enjoying it, but that's, I think, a box that needs to be checked. And then logistically, too, some of these things got to work, and it doesn't always go that smoothly. And we've got, I wouldn't call it a transition team, but it's kind of a group of people like Megan Anderson and Woody and what goes on in the weight room and everything else. There's kind of a transition team I think helps make it smooth for those that are looking to do that. An X factor, to be honest with you, with that topic, because it's getting crazy right now with the portal. I mean, I think people see the numbers. Our guys want to win, and so I think when we're going after a guy like Doe, there isn't anyone that is disgruntled in that or has other thoughts or feelings. They like competition. They know competition will make them better as an individual, and if they want to win, then they know anyone that can help us win, does just that. So, and then I think at the very least, we can't guarantee guys two things, but they'll get better. I mean, Doe was already pretty good, but if you reflect back on the year he had and things like that, there was certainly no assurance or no one in Vegas betting that he was going to be what he was this year. And I think guys are assured to improve, and all these kids want to play pro ball. So I think we got a unique thing going on with Frank's son and Josh's experience in pro ball and other guys on staff that we want to get them ready to win for the Vols, but we want to get them ready in pro ball. And I think there's, Crochet's done well, and there's other guys too that deal works. And two, I mean, we're going to help them. I mean, Hundley wanted to get into pro ball. I wanted Hundley back, as did all you. But he wanted to play pro ball, and he earned it and deserved it, and we helped him. I don't mind saying that because we truly did. And now he's living out his dream, and he's still cheering on the Vols. So good for him and the other guys.
Tony, this team has earned a lot of high praise this season. I think the latest is coming from Notre Dame's coach, where he said that you all were the #1 team in all of college sports this season. What's your reaction to hearing this and maybe trying to stay even keel at this point in the season?
Yeah, I think fortunately we're kind of past it. At least I am, and I don't sense from the players differently, but you got to about halfway through the year, somewhere maybe a little bit deeper, and in our league, it's like, okay, does it matter, first of all, and whoever's got it, like how long are they going to hold on to that hot potato? And there's probably going to be another team in the league that picks it up. It's just the way that it's going to go every year. But fortunately, our guys played well down the stretch. Everyone loves to point out a blip on the radar screen in Kentucky, but we talked to our players in the outfield and we told them that weekend was going to serve them well, and I feel that it has contributed to the topic we're talking about right now. So we've been able to kind of stay, at the forefront there. But I think once we talked about hosting and playing in front of your fans, that's really what you want. And then after that, it don't matter. It certainly feels good to play in front of our fans. It's a goal of ours each year. But there's teams too. We've got a young man from Coastal Carolina, Matt Beard, that was the catcher on Coastal Carolina's national championship team. And if you follow that route, it was clearly not conventional. But this is not a conventional tournament. And these aren't conventional or normal teams either at this point. They're all teams that can do great things. So, it doesn't matter. It's like last week, someone asked me walking into the park, do you want to play Campbell or Georgia Tech? And I said, well, would you like to be waterboarded by Aquafina or Dasani? It doesn't matter. They're both gonna be good. And it doesn't matter what the score is. Everybody now knows that from last game. It's going to be hell from pitch one until the last pitch, from the start of the series until the end of the series, not just here, but across the country. So embrace it and certainly enjoy it. And I am thankful that our fans get to see it in person.
So last and then we'll go to Ryan.
Tony, when you're recruiting a guy, to the extent that you have time to be around them and get to know them and the people around them, how much do you look at sort of a personality and can I coach this guy and can I challenge this guy? Because I know y'all, when things aren't going the way you want them to, y'all are usually pretty direct about trying to get that stuff addressed. And do you look into that and say, I think we can challenge this guy, I think this guy will respond well to this? What's that process like?
Yeah, I think on the front end, and I'm not saying anything genius, but for the average fan, so they know when all these coaches are in an event, we know dang well that we do not have we're not Nostradamus. You're not going to be able to accurately predict who's going to blow up and who's not going to be any good. You make an assessment and you roll with it. I know Carter Putz, one of their guys from high school, and I knew he was going to be pretty dang good. And we recruited him when I was at Arkansas, and I think he knows my family a little bit. But, to what extent, who knows? Well, he's sitting in the middle of the order for one of the best teams in the country. There's no way to predict that part. But I do think you can get a pretty good sense for personality and what you can and can't do with a guy. And it's much better to know that on the front end than the back end because, you're not going to be able to completely change a person when they're on your campus after 18 years of their lives. So I think assessing the personality is something we've tried to do because we feel like we got to kind of have that niche. The relationship niche is what I've talked about before. But guys who have, capability of what you're getting at, play with a little edge and take some coaching and hear directly from us what they got to get better at or what they're, short in and things like that. And I think we handle that the way we recruit on the front end by starting that process during the recruiting process. So there's no shock when we handle things the way we do in person if they're on campus. Hopefully that was a sloppy answer, but I think there was an answer in there somewhere.
You got there.
Awesome.
What are the factors that have contributed to some of Beam's struggles the past month?
I think, if you look at it from my vantage point, and maybe I'm a guy who likes to spin things too positive, but I think it's reality. I told him after the Kentucky game, hey, we're expecting to go 4 with you, 4 with Bernsey. We felt like a situation where Chase could come in the fourth, benefited us, so that's the way the game worked out. We're not going to tell the guys before the game that. But he stopped a locomotive in what was Kentucky's offense, and also us versus Kentucky was a thing too. And then last week, again, if you look at the offenses that were in our deal here, throwing up 2 zeros was huge. Obviously, the next inning did not go to plan. I would say in both those games, and then anything before, if you're going to want to say he was better in this weekend and not this weekend, is just letting the ball go. You've seen situations where a pitch has not been taken off. The kid's too good of a competitor, but not thrown with conviction or just not letting it go through your spot. And that'll get him behind in the count, or it'll be a poor enough mistake that maybe a guy hits it. But I would say that would be the sole thing that I'm 100% confident I've seen. And I've not said that to him. I think Coach Anderson's kind of said it in his words. But again, I think we're probably going to use him this weekend in some situations, start or relieve. We're confident regardless of what it is. But the key for him is the same for all of our guys, be you. And when you put up a roadblock and prevent yourself from being yourself, either because you're too juiced up because our crowd's going crazy, or it's a big game, or there's a guy at second base, then you're not going to be yourself. And what did you put in all that hard work for, and why did we recruit you if you're not going to be Jordan Beck, Luke, Jarrell, whoever it might be? And those guys are obviously good enough, just like Drew, when they're being who they are.
Hey, Coach, just this past week, you passed your 5-year mark here at the University of Tennessee. A lot of fans, reflected on that and how you've built this program. I just wanted to ask you, if you were to reflect on it, what do you feel like your biggest accomplishments have been over your past 5 years here in building up this program?
Yeah, I sincerely hadn't thought about it, and then you threw out the 5-year thing. I'm not being cocky, I feel younger. It's a good spot to be, and I've enjoyed it. Now we feel like we've got roots. I think the biggest accomplishments have been the ones that are behind the scenes. We kind of talked about a transition team, just staff getting organized, getting to know each other, making the work environment fun, kind of having a niche or a brand name and style we have with our players in practice and for the most part in games, which is another topic. But I think it's the things behind the scenes, to be honest with you. And it's been good to bring a regional. Just the first regional was the thing. Because you're going to bring out fans that maybe don't normally come out. You're going to force administration, which clearly they're working on, was going to need more seats and upgrade some things. So that doing that deal the first time was pretty awesome.
Time for a few more. We'll go to John and then Trey.
We know for 3 specifically, and it could be more, but this will be the final home games at Lindsey Nelson Stadium for some. Going into such an important weekend where so much is on the line, concerned at all of that being a distraction, or has this team proven it's locked in on what it has to do Friday and then move on after that?
No, I think they've been pretty good about, kind of focusing on the task. This team in particular, we talked about rankings and things like that. Hopefully I practice what I preach, and I know at least I'm asking them to do this. You only got so much mental energy. I mean, these kids got energy for days at the age they're at. I think everyone in the room, no offense to anyone's age, but I think we can all remember when we were, in college or when you're 20, you're not going to run out of physical energy too often, but you can kind of only exert your focus and energy into so many different things. So choose wisely. And if you listen to all the good things people want to say about us or the bad things or the magnitude of the game or what we're ranked, you're not going to be really focused on the next task. And I think that's what our guys have done well. I think, well, I'll leave that alone. But, I think when our guys show up to practice or to the weight room or anything like that, they kind of have different phrases they use and they're kind of joking about it. But I think they sincerely are focused on what's in front of them. And it's one of the reasons it's a good group for me to be around because it takes stress off me. I feel like they're coaching themselves as opposed to, me having to berate them or anything like that. But any game you get to play, Mr. Haslam's field turf that he laid out there for us, anytime your spikes or your coaching shoes are on that stuff, it's a great day. And then when you fill the stands with fans, it's even greater.
Tony, how good is it for a team preparation coming off last year to be able to understand some of your players and be your veterans to talk to the younger players about coming down off the high of last weekend, settling back in this week, and then getting all jacked back up again, heading into Notre Dame? What's that been like this week?
Yeah, I think that's vital to be in the best position. It's not a requirement, because like one thing I was going to say about the portal is like, we don't necessarily want to make our money off that, but it's almost a necessity now. One of the Notre Dame strengths is they're older, and that's kind of the common theme across. You can call it COVID if you want, whatever it is. It's a requirement for a team. It's not a requirement for an individual, Blake Burke, for example, SEMO. So the reason that parallel comes to mind is it's not a requirement to do well in a setting like this if it's your first time or you haven't seen it. But it certainly helps. It gives you a vision of what things are going to look like. And if you have other guys who can make that vision clear for you, then it's almost like you've been there for those guys that have not experienced it. And so, again, you can kind of map out what you're going to do leading up to, and then when certain situations arise in the heat of competition, how are you going to handle it? So I think vision is the word that comes to mind, and I think, again, it's not a requirement. It's not like you can't do well without it. But there's no question it's more than an aid. It's a big help.
Time for one more. Anyone have another question? Vince, we'll finish with you.
The closer.
Tony, anything else stand out about Notre Dame, either offensively or with their coaching staff and how their season has gone?
Well, yeah. I mean, Coach Jarrett, when we first arrived, UNCG was on the schedule, so they came over and we played them, and that's an entirely different school, but it was, his program, and just off the cut, like organized is a word that, and I don't know if that's a weird compliment or a great compliment. People say well coached. What does that mean? But just everything seemed organized. So clearly did a great job, and it's why he was suited for, not just the job he has, but, others at the time or whatever. And then we talked about the pitching depth, but a pretty balanced lineup too. I know Cole's a guy who's a really good hitter, but also a great runner, and he was out for a little bit with them and then returned. So I know that's a big get back. Talked about putts. There's kind of, without any one of those guys wanting to throw a ball at me during BP, there's kind of like 3 or 4 of him where a little bit of pop, also a little bit of average, just able to get on base, really well-rounded hitters. And I believe their leading hitter too, their catcher. Something to say for that, because normally that's a defensive first position or a position that'll beat you up a little bit. So I'm able to rattle off a few things because of the word like well-balanced on the offensive side, depth on the pitching side, and then just a well-coached group. I mean, I'm not the only one that said that. That's in scouting reports and things like that too. And again, older crowd, kind of like ours, and a lot of the best in the country. It helps.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you all.